Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I wanted to go over a new update from the Center for Politics Sabato Crystal Ball, where they've given some updated rankings for the 2025 and 2026 gubernatorial races. I thought this was very interesting and I want to go over it for you in today's video. So the points on the article says, as the post-Labor Day sprint begins to the November gubernatorial races, we began upgrading Democrats in Virginia and moving that race to likely Democratic. New Jersey remains in the lean Democratic category. For the 2026 races, the open seats in Iowa and Maine get more competitive in our rankings, and it also says Republicans should be able to easily win a new seat in Missouri as a result of a new proposed gerrymander, the latest development in the fast-moving redistricting wars. So the current Crystal Ball 2025 gubernatorial race ratings show as followed on the governor's side of things. It shows Virginia now as a likely Democratic gain here. It shows Iowa into the lean Republican side. And I want to say what was the other one? It was Maine goes from likely to now lean Democratic. So let's listen to their reasoning. In just over 2 weeks, in-person early voting will begin in the Virginia gubernatorial race. And even as this open seat gubernatorial race enters its closing stretch, our basic assessment is not much different from when we first outlined the contest back in April. We designated former Rep. Abigail Spanberger, the Democrat, as a favorite over the Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears. To be sure, over the last month or so, some Republicans have maintained that the events of the campaign are moving in their direction. Most concretely, it was hard to miss an image of a woman protesting Earl Sears' presence at an Arlington School Board meeting. The protester who took issue with the Lieutenant Governor's stance on transgender issues held a sign that was racially insensitive. Though Spanberger distanced herself from the protester and condemned the message, the image was circulated widely on conservative social media. The Earl Sears campaign announced that the days immediately following the sign incident were her best fundraising days as a candidate in the race. That response may have encouraged Earl Sears, who has long been known for her conservative stances on social issues, is to lean more heavily on her opposition to transgender rights. Her most recent ad is essentially a reprise of what became known as Donald Trump's Kamala is for they, them ad, although the ad from the presidential race seems more effective because Harris, through her own words, gave Republicans more to work on this issue than Spanberger has, and says they have linked ads that explains that. Earl Sears is also deploying outgoing Governor Glenn Youngkin in ads. Youngkin remains relatively popular and is a very strong, useful surrogate for Earl Sears. Was this all to move the needle for Earl Sears? Joe Szymanski, a Republican who takes a clear-eyed approach when analyzing elections, may have summed things up best in a Substack post. Essentially, while the Arlington sign incident on its own may not be enough to change the trajectory of the race, it may help Earl Sears better consolidate Republicans. Since at least the June primary, there have been persistent reports of a GOP ticket that is less than unified. With Earl Sears now raising the salience of red meat social issues, and with the foil in a woke protester, Republicans may have reason to rally around their ticket. The narrative of a GOP resurgence in the race has also been fed by a poll from Roanoke College. In mid-August, it gave its poll Spanberger 46 to 39% lead over Sears, which was down from the 43-26% margin that Spanberger had in the middle of May. Now, of course, a 10-point swing from the same pollster in the race is notable, but we always thought that a 26% baseline was too low for any major party statewide candidate in Virginia, and I 100% agree with that statement. In other words, we saw Roanoke College poll less as momentum for Republicans and more as the difference between a poll that was too good for Democrats and one that was more in line with what the race should have been all along. Now, perhaps Spanberger's lead has held up as most other surveys have come from Republican-aligned firms. One of the latest examples from Coefficient, which showed Spanberger with a 48 to 43% lead, even as the poll's electorate looked more like 2021's than 2024's. Roanoke also used the 2021 exit poll when Republicans swept 3 statewide races to weight its poll. Both polls arguably stress-tested Spanberger's lead by suggesting an electorate that may be redder than what we will see in November, and she was still ahead. To be clear, we also don't necessarily think Spanberger is actually leading by considerably more than what these polls show. Mid to high single digits may very well be where the race is at. In her own words, Spanberger has been working to nationalize the race by linking Earl Sears to the Trump administration. One Spanberger ad that has been running for about a month depicts Earl Sears as unsympathetic to thousands of federal workers that have lost their jobs under Trump. More recently, Democrats in key races across the country have hit Republicans on their support of Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. Spanberger's latest ad ties Earl Sears to that. Going down the home stretch of the campaign, Spanberger is also set to dominate the conversation on the airwaves. One enduring theme of the race has been Spanberger's financial advantage over Earl Sears. through the major disclosure milestones this year. She's enjoyed roughly a 2-to-1 fundraising advantage. That is very significant in a governor's race like this one, especially where neither candidate was super well known by the Commonwealth of Virginia. Spanberger having that big of an advantage is very big. Spanberger also has the large advantage in future ad reservations, according to the AD Impact Politics as of last week. Spanberger's lopsided financial advantage and the fact the Trump administration seemed to go out of its way to ensure the state continues its long-standing trend of reacting against the presidential party have had us feeling that the Democrats should be stronger favorites to flip the governorship. We'll be paying attention to whatever tea leaves that may show up in the early voting patterns, but for now we are upgrading Spanberger's position. Virginia moves from lean Democrat to likely Democrat. It also gives a quick mention that in New Jersey we're sticking with our lead Democratic rating. Post-primary polling is consistently shown Mikey Sherrill leading former state assemblyman and 2021 nominee Jack Ciattarelli, similar to Virginia. It says, electorally, one of Sherrill's priorities seems to be shoring up any weaknesses with minority voters. The results from June's primary, where she emerged from a crowded contest with a 34% plurality, and some of the 2024 presidential results in the state offer some context as to why Democrats shouldn't take minority voters in the state for granted. Yesterday, Sherrill campaigned with Newark Mayor Ross Baraka, one of her primary rivals, who polled well in some of the state's most diverse communities. One reason we've come to view New Jersey as the more competitive race is that Jack Ciattarelli can run as the, quote, change candidate. This was the theme of a first post-Labor Day, and Republicans have responded to Sherrill's efforts to nationalize the race by laying much of the blame for the state's problems at the feet of outgoing Democratic Governor Phil Murphy. In the Democratic legislature, which such trends are meant to be broken, it also might be worth pointing out that neither party has strung together at least 3 gubernatorial wins in a row in a state since 1960s. So it's very interesting here. With all that said, though, they said our bottom line for 2025 is that the gubernatorial races is that a Republican will win in either New Jersey or Virginia in November would be considered an upset. And honestly, going on my own personal rankings, I do not have anything to really disagree with there. That's the 2026 map. The 2025 map, I currently have both Virginia and New Jersey listed as likely Democrat. I'm not totally sure what their point ranking is, but for mine, likely is anything 5 points or more, or 5 to 15 points, excuse me. And I have Virginia currently being around a 9 to 10 point win for the Democrats. New Jersey, I have right around that 6-point margin. That's currently where I have things right now. So they're both likely Democrat for my own rankings, but for a lot of the same reasons, I'm in pretty much complete agreement with them on that. As for 2026, to go more in depth about some of the races, the first one in Maine, where Governor Janet Mills is term limited out and have a crowded primary on the Democratic side to replace Mills with lots of candidates running. There's also a legacy name possibility in the GOP side, with Jonathan Bush among several Republicans already running or looking at the race. He is the nephew of former President George H.W. Bush. The Bush family has a famous summer home in Kennebunkport. Maine, a small state with quirky politics, sometimes has significant independent candidacies, and this election appears to at least have one in State Senator Rick Bennett. The former state Senate president and state Republican Party chair is running toward the middle as an independent, and it's not really clear which major party his presence would hurt more. The lack of clarity about the major party nominees and the potential for this to be more than a 2-person race, all unfolding as Democrats try to win 3 straight terms, leads us to think this one could be a sleeper even if Democrats retain an edge. And I did do a video not too long ago where I talked about Maine potentially being a sleeper in the 2026 gubernatorial elections for a lot of similar reasons. I did not mention the third party aspect, though. That is very interesting. I did mention the Bush family part. So that is interesting. Now, for Iowa, it does mention the prospect of an open seat race by State Auditor Rob Sand and Representative Republican Randy Feenstra. Both face primary opposition, but are currently favored to be in the general elections. Republicans are taking Sand's candidacy seriously, although they are hopeful they can pin National Democratic label on him over the course of the campaign. Democrats have been performing excellently in special state legislative elections in Iowa this year, and as they noted last week, these kinds of elections have smaller and are very likely more Democratic-leaning electorates than Iowa will have next year. That said, there may also be some actual dissatisfaction with Republicans in the state. Reynolds herself only has mediocre numbers at best, which may have contributed to her retiring decision. We do now think this race belongs in a more competitive category, and they're moving it from likely to lean Republican. Like Democrats in Maine, though, Republicans are still favored. We are, however, keeping the now open Senate race as likely Republican. That race seems to be more of a lockstep Republican win on that one. And then it does talk about Arizona and Kansas as well, and Nevada and Alaska if you want to look up more about that. I don't want to go on too long here. It's already been going on for a long time here, but that's the latest on that. So I found that really interesting. Make sure to go check it out on the centerforpolitics.org website if you want to know more about it. They have Nevada, Iowa, and Georgia narrowly staying red, Arizona, Wisconsin, and Michigan being the toss-ups, Kansas narrowly favored to flip red as well as lean Republican. And then you also have more competitive races now in New Jersey and Maine, more of a blue Democratic win in Virginia. So I thought this was very interesting. Make sure to leave your thoughts down below, what you think of this map from Sabato's Crystal Ball, and what you think this could all mean for 2025 and 2026's governor races. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you did, leave a comment below. Tell me your thoughts. Also, make sure to hit like and subscribe as I post multiple videos every day that you are not going to want to miss out on. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. Today we're talking about the state of Kansas, and in a recent article that suggests Kansas Republicans could be trying to redistrict the only Democrat in the state of Kansas out of that seat and giving the Republicans another seat. So the article from KCUR.org goes over that State House Republicans already redrew Democrat Sheriff David's district in 2022, and they may try and do it again, joining the national gerrymandering battle over the U.S. House of Representatives. Less than 4 years after winning their preferred congressional map, some Kansas Republicans want to reshape the state's U.S. House districts again ahead of 2026 in their midterm elections. If they are successful, it could mean ousting the only Democrat in the state's congressional delegation. Kansas would join a wave of Republican and Democratic-led states engaging in overt gerrymandering to tip the balance of power in the House and the closely divided House of Representatives. In a statement, Republican Kansas Senate President Ty Masterson, who is also running for governor, that's an important note as well, said he would consider redistricting as a part of the bigger battle for the heart and soul of the country. It is crucial that President Trump can continue working with the Republican Congress to keep delivering on his agenda and ushering in America's comeback. Redistricting normally happens every 10 years following the national census, and politicians typically shy away from making partisan objectives explicit during the map drawing process. But this year, political pressures at the federal level have pushed state legislatures to ignore these norms. Texas, California, Missouri, and several other states are in various stages of the mid-decade redistricting, with the unvarnished goal of electing candidates of their preferred party. The 3rd Congressional District in northeastern Kansas, which Democratic Representative Sharice Davids has held since 2019, would be the likely target of the gerrymandering by Republican state lawmakers. Voters should pick their representatives, not the other way around, Davids told the Kansas News Service in an email. This unprecedented step would only further polarize this country and harm our democracy. The redistricting effort may be more difficult, however, in Kansas than in other states. It's only been a few years since the Republican-dominated state legislature passed congressional maps targeting David's district and the Kansas City metro area. Those drawings sparked intense political debate and a state Supreme Court case, which the map's proponents won. Supporters said redistricting ensured equal representation in Kansas, while civil rights groups and Democrats argued the new boundaries split up racially diverse areas for partisan advantage. The 2022 map allowed the left-leaning city of Lawrence in eastern Kansas into the vast, mostly rural 1st District, which stretches over 350 miles to the state's western border with Colorado. The plan also bisected Winnebago County, the state's most ethnically and economically diverse county. The nonpartisan gerrymandering research project gave the 2022 Kansas electoral map an F for partisan fairness, yet Davids held onto her seat by a wide margin in 2022 and 2024. Patrick Miller, a political science professor at Kent State University, who served as an expert witness in the 2022 Kansas redistricting trial, said Republicans have one option left to create 4 safe GOP districts. The only way that you can ensure Sheriff David loses, or any Democrat, is if you break Johnson County up. Johnson County is the most populous in the state. Its leftward shift over the last few decades have undermined Democrats' ability to win statewide races and ballot initiatives. Lawmakers in 2022 proposed several maps that involved cleaving Johnson County into 2, but settled on one called Ad Astra 2, which left the county intact. Miller suspects that they may have something to do with local politics. There are Republicans from Johnson County in the legislature who would have to be on board with this, he said. Republicans would need to rally nearly every member of the 2/3 majorities in the State House and Senate to pass a new map, since Democrat Governor Laura Kelly would likely veto the map. That is a very big wrinkle in this race. or in this situation that is often underreported. Until next year, when there is a governor's race up, the new governor of Kansas will likely be a Republican. But right now, the Democratic governor of Kansas is Laura Kelly. So the Republicans may have a better chance at redistricting after next year's election for the map in 2028. But by then, obviously, the 2026 House elections will be over, and Kansas having one Democratic seat could maybe potentially cost the Republicans the House majority. So that's very important. Republican Chris Croft, a legislative leader in the large city of Overland Park in Johnson County, did not respond to requests for comment. Kevin Walker, the chief policy officer of the Overland Park Chamber of Commerce, said his organization opposed splitting Johnson County up in 2022 and would take the same stance now. He said dividing the county between two districts would threaten its history of strong economic development. The success that we have had has come through a high degree of collaboration, he said. We don't need more boundaries splitting it up. So this is very interesting, and it's a battle that's underway in a lot of places around the country right now. In Kansas, this is what the map currently looks like, where, as you can see, there's currently 3 U.S. Republican House seats and 1 for the Democrats, overall 4 in total. Now, the only Democratic one is Kansas 3, which is held by the Democrat Davids, as the article said. Kansas's 3rd congressional district is listed at Democrat +2, so it is slightly leaning towards the Democrats, though it's not by an insurmountable amount. Essentially, if everything went the Republicans' way, the Republicans would still be competitive in this district. But they also know the Republicans are going to be up in 2026 in a midterm election environment that should be more favorable for the Democrats. Now, in 2022, Davids won it by 12.2%. 2024, Democrats won it by 10.8%. So the Republicans are looking at the map, and they're looking at states that are Republican and trying to get as many House seats as possible. Now, Kansas, overall, when you look at it, is a pretty red state. It voted at the presidential level in 2024 for Donald Trump by about 16.1%. Trump won it by 16 points, and when you compare it to other states that's similar in margin, let's see here. Montana, for instance, was about a 20-point win for Trump, and at the House level, it has 2 seats. Both are Republicans. The only other state I can really say that has a similar situation to Kansas based on the votes, you could say really is Missouri, and they also have a similar situation going here where they're trying to redistrict, where they're trying to get out one of the Democratic districts and make it to Republican. Now, a criticism of the Republicans has been that based on the vote totals that some of these Democratic states like Massachusetts, for instance, Massachusetts, 36% of people voted for Kamala Harris in the state of Mass, and yet when you look at the House map, the Democrats have every single House seat in the state. So Republicans have been using that as an argument for a lot of redistricting. But now in Kansas, Democrats got about 40.3% of the House vote in 2024. The presidential race, Democrats got 41.04%. But now Republicans are trying to redraw the only Democratic district in Kansas. I think Kansas, it is possible the Republicans could draw out the 3rd district, but it's certainly a lot tougher in Kansas than it is in a state like Missouri. Where Missouri, it's a Republican-controlled legislature like it is in Kansas, but there's a Republican governor to sign it into law. Kansas, it's a Democratic governor. The Democratic governor would likely veto any map that gets rid of the 3rd district. So the Republicans would need to have a full supermajority, veto-proof supermajority to get this done, and that's going to be a lot tougher. Now, if the Republicans can actually do this, though, if the Republicans can get Kansas' 3rd district to flip and give all 4 House districts to the Republicans, that would be very significant for 2026. Where right now, the current House map has Republicans at 212, Democrats are at 202. Now, Republicans are going to be gaining 1 House seat in Missouri 5 that will be officially going to the Republicans in the new map redraw. That puts Republicans at 213, Democrats still at 201. Now, if the Republicans can flip this district, Kansas 3, this would get Republicans to 214. This is not taken into effect the California redistricting that'll be happening. That'll probably take away 5 Republican House seats. Or Florida is reportedly interested at looking at redistricting as well. So since redistricting is very much up in the air right now, it's hard to kind of keep up to date with the most recent numbers and scenarios for the House in 2026. But if Kansas, big if, was able to redistrict, that 1 House seat could make a very big difference. Also, with Kansas neighboring Nebraska as well, Nebraska, when we go back to the map here, it has 1 district in Nebraska's 2nd district that is super competitive that's held by Republican Don Bacon. Now, this district overall, though, when you look at the Cook PVI, is about Kansas's 3. It's about Democrat +3, very similar to this one. And this one is expected to be a Democratic flip in 2026, which is why the president is trying to redraw Nebraska's map and have it be a more solid Republican district. Now, Nebraska at large voted about 20.5% for Trump over Harris, so kind of in a similar situation to what Kansas was. So if Republicans can do that and redraw the map in Nebraska, that would also net them another seat. So you see the strategy here, that Gavin Newsom and the Democrats are going to net about 5 seats in California. Republicans, if they can redraw Nebraska and Kansas, would be netting about 2. Texas, they've already done about 5 seats or so if they can win Texas's 28th seat. So essentially, California and Texas would cancel each other out, and if Republicans could pull off Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri, this would be Republican plus 3 on the current House map. The Democrats in this scenario, though it does sound bleak, Democrats could still win the House on this scenario. The Republicans hold 215 House seats. Democrats, if they win up to 218, which would be about 18 or so of the 21 remaining House seats, they could still get there. And the question will be, though, do Republicans redraw in Ohio, which has been rumored to be happening as well, and Florida is also being mentioned. So redistricting is still very much up in the air, and there's potential for Kansas to maybe be getting involved as well. I will say this, of all the Republican states that are redrawing their map, Kansas, given the fact their governor is a Democrat, may be the Democrat saving grace in the state. As I'm sure all their candidates running for governor on the Republican side will run on their campaign of redrawing the Kansas map, but by then it might be a little bit too late for the 2026 midterm elections, which could end up playing very big dividends for the Democrats in 2026. But that's all the latest I have for you on Kansas and its potential redistricting. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to hit like and subscribe. Please, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below. I know redistricting and the House map can all be very confusing and hard to keep up with, so if you do have any comments or questions, please do not hesitate to leave them down below. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please remember to hit like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in a future video. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be going through the 2026 updated U.S. House map and going through each state and where things currently stand on redistricting. Now there's a lot going on, and I'm going to try and do this as quickly, as concisely as possible. So if I do miss any information on the state, I do apologize, and make sure to leave it down in the comments section below, and I'll try to amend it and such for future videos. So for the state of Alabama and its congressional map, it's going to remain pretty much as it is right now without really anything too much to change for 2026. Alaska, obviously it's just the one district at large. Republican Nick Begich in all likelihood is going to win re-election unless we see Democrat Mary Peltola run for this race again in 2026, but for now, probably going to expect that one to stay the way it is. Arizona, I don't believe there's anything going on there in terms of redistricting. I've not heard anything, and given that it's essentially a 50-50 state with a Democratic governor, I don't think we're going to see anything really happen here. Now, as for the overall House map, however, 2 Republicans are up, Juan Ciscomani in Arizona 6, and Arizona Dave Schweiker, the Republican. Both of these races are very close and very competitive for 2026, and if the Republicans or Democrats win the House, these 2 races could make a very big difference in deciding which party does that. Now, this video is not going to serve as like a prediction video that I usually do. This is going to be more like an educational video about what's going on. So for Arizona, the 2 races you're watching are Arizona 1 and Arizona 6. Now in the state of Arkansas, the map is pretty much drawn in the way it is. We're likely not going to see any changes there. California, there is a redistricting effort happening in the state right now. Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom has gotten the voting measure to be on the ballot for 2026. Now, or for 2025, I'm sorry, for November of 2025, if that referendum passes, it will allow the state legislature in California to redraw the congressional map. Now, here's what the rumors have been for the state of California. For one, it would cement all Democratic seats, including California 47, which is held by the Democrat Dave Min, and California 13, which is held by Democrat Adam Gray. So Arizona, I didn't fill in because it's not going to be redistricted. California will be. It will cement the Democratic wins. Now, what it will also do is it's attempting to flip 5 Republican seats. For one, it will reflip 3 Republican seats that are currently listed narrowly in the GOP's column in California 22, in California 40, and California 41. These have been the 3 confirmed Republican seats. The map will definitely look to redistrict. The other 2 seats that they're targeting are Republican seats that are more conservative that they're attempting to split up and make more Democratic. And this would be Kevin Kiley in California 3 and Darrell Issa in California 48. If Newsom's referendum passes and their map is redrawn the way that's expected to be, this is what the rumored map would essentially look like. Obviously, the lines would be drawn much differently, but this is what the Democrat composition in California would end up looking like. So at this point, just going alphabetically through California, the Democrats would be up about 5 House seats. Now, in Texas, you may also notice that they have already redrawn the map, but I'll get into Texas in just one moment. Colorado, again, I don't think there's going to be any redrawing going on here. The most competitive district in Colorado is Gabe Evans in Colorado 8. He very narrowly won it in 2024. I can actually pull this up here if you want to see the exact results. Evans only won it by 0.73%, so this is a very close race to watch for 2026 in Colorado 8. So that one's there. Connecticut, unless something really shocking happens in Connecticut 5, everything will probably remain in the Democratic column. Delaware, one district at large, Sarah McBride should win that one, no problem. Florida is very interesting because Ron DeSantis has said he wants to redraw the congressional map in Florida. Now, nothing has officially happened yet, but assuming DeSantis is correct and he will be able to redraw the map, Democrats could be in some real trouble in the state. Because if he's able to do it, we're likely going to see 5, as DeSantis has said, 5 Democratic seats be called out. First being Kathy Castor in Florida in the Tampa area. This one is one to watch for. Florida 9 with Darren Soto is listed as a target. Jared Moskowitz district in Florida 23. And then you're probably looking 2 of these districts down here. Let's say Florida 20, and then you could pick between Florida 22 or Florida 25 or 24. We'll just say 25 for now. If Ron DeSantis is able to successfully redistrict Florida, these would be the 5 seats that he's targeting. Again, this is not confirmed to be happening 100%, but DeSantis and state Republicans have leaned that they want to do this and redraw Florida. So just for the sake of today's video, let's just say DeSantis can do this and flip the congressional map Florida 5 seats for the Republicans. If they were able to do this, again, big if, this would get Republicans up to 212. Now, Georgia right now is going to remain probably the way it is. Hawaii will remain safe for the Dems. Idaho will remain. Illinois, J.B. Pritzker said he wants to try and redraw the map in Illinois to maybe make it even more Democratic friendly. And the way it's currently drawn right now, it's already pretty democratically maxed out. It's possible that he could redraw the map and try and make it more democratic, but for now we're going to leave Illinois the way it is. Indiana, Republicans, this is one of the first states that kicked it off. Republicans want to redraw the map to get rid of Indiana 1 and Democrat Frank Mervyn. And if they were to do this, that would get Republicans up to 213. Now for Iowa, things are not going to be redrawn here, but there are a lot of close races, including in Iowa 1 with Marinette Miller-Meeks and Iowa 3 with Zach Nunn. If Democrats do very well in the midterm election environment in 2026, we may very well see Democrats winning both Iowa 1 and Iowa 3, and maybe getting a little bit more competitive in Iowa 2 now that Ashley Hinson is running for Senate. But 1 and 3 are the main seats to watch for in the state of Iowa. Kansas, Republicans are hoping to redraw the 3rd congressional district of Sheriff Davids in the redistricting. Even though Florida, we're pretty confident is going to happen, Kansas is a lot more of a mixed bag. President Trump and the Republicans in Kansas would love to do it, but Democratic Governor Laura Kelly, having the veto power right now, is currently keeping the Democrats for sure losing this 3rd congressional district. Kentucky is probably going to remain the way it is. The 6th district could be more competitive, but I think it stays red for now. Louisiana, unless something changes, will remain. Maine is going to be very close with Jared Golden versus Paula Page in the 2nd district. That's going to be an important one to watch for. Maryland, Westmoreland's threatened to try and redraw the map from Republican to Democrat and Andrew Harris. Maryland, I do believe they do have a super majority for the Democrats. So let's just say for the sake of hypothetical reasons that the 1st district goes to the Democrats now. Massachusetts, all Democrat will remain. Michigan, 2 very close races. In Michigan 10, John James. Michigan 7, Tom Barrett. Minnesota, again, 1 competitive race in the 2nd district with Andrew Craig retiring, but no gerrymandering or redistricting going on there. Mississippi will remain. Missouri, 1 district in the 5th district just passed a law that this district will be getting redrawn and added to the Republican category. That will be happening. That one we know for sure will be happening for 2026. Montana will remain the way it is. Nebraska, the reports are that President Trump and the Republicans are trying to redraw the map to make Nebraska 2 more of a Republican seat. Again, this one's a little bit more, we have to wait and see how this goes, but for the sake of this video, let's just give the Republicans Nebraska 2 and redraw the map. This is where redistricting is currently standing right now. Nevada, Democrats have redrawn the map back in 2020, actually, to give them a very good hold over Nevada with 4, 3, and 1 all being in the pretty reliable blue category. New Hampshire's 2 districts could be competitive, but will probably remain Democratic. New Jersey, one competitive race that's up in New Jersey's 7th District. Democrats, there hasn't been a ton of rumbling about trying to redraw their map in New Jersey in 2026. That one could potentially give the Democrats an extra seat or two, especially in maybe consolidating the blue vote in New Jersey's 7th District. But overall, I think New Jersey will probably remain the way it is. New Mexico, again, one competitive seat in the 2nd District, but will not be redrawn. New York, if New York does get redrawn, which Kathy Hochul was one of the first Democrat governors to say they would love to do, the only targets for New York would be Mike Lawler in New York 17 for sure, and then maybe trying to draw out Nicholas LaLauda in New York 1, and then maybe trying to redraw Elise Stefanik's New York 21 district. New York, for now, I'm going to leave as is, because I have not heard a lot of rumblings on New York. But if it does get redrawn, there could be some potential for some big Democratic gains in the state of New York. North Carolina, one closed district with Don Davis, otherwise probably will not be redrawn. North Dakota state at large will not get redrawn. Ohio, the rumor is that Republicans are going to redraw the map for the mid-decade redistricting. That one we know will be happening. We just don't know what the map will be yet. The rumor has been for a while that Republicans will get Ohio 9, Ohio 13, and Ohio 1. That would be the rumor out of Ohio at this current point in time. Oklahoma will remain as is. Oregon will probably remain as is. Pennsylvania, some very close races, but in terms of redrawing, there won't be anything going on there. Rhode Island, nothing to happen there. South Carolina, nothing to happen. South Dakota at large. Tennessee is going to remain the same it is. Texas, according to the map, has already been updated. So you're already getting a few seats here, like Al Green's Texas 9 is going to be an automatic Republican flip. You have Texas 32 with Julie Johnson, an automatic Republican flip. And you have Texas 35's automatic Republican. And I do believe you do have one more district as well. And I think it's Texas 20 or one of these seats, one of these seats around the Austin area is a Republican flip as well. With Texas 28 and Henry Cuellar becoming more competitive, Monica De La Cruz. Oh, here it is. Texas 34, Vicente Gonzalez is a lean Republican win. Texas 15, likely Republican. And Henry Cuellar's 28th could be 50-50 that Republicans could win in Texas. So that one's been redrawn. Utah right now, it's looking like based on the lawsuit that the 4th district will be redrawn. So this would actually be a Democratic flip of the House map for 2026 if this lawsuit were to go through. So for today's video, we'll go through that. Vermont will remain obviously state at large. Virginia will not be redrawn in all likelihood, but some very close races in the 2nd and 7th district and maybe potentially in the 1st one. I have a video coming out on that. Washington will not be redrawn in all likelihood. West Virginia will remain. Wisconsin, it's interesting. Wisconsin kind of sparked this whole conversation about redrawing the congressional map for 2026. Several lawsuits have been filed trying to redraw Wisconsin's map. For now, it doesn't look like anything's going to happen, but even if it doesn't, one very close House seat in Wisconsin's 3rd district is going to be up in 2026, and maybe the 1st district if it does get redrawn there. In Wyoming's at large. So based on everything that I've personally heard right now in redrawing, Republicans would get up to about 216 seats, Democrats up to about 202, with still 17 seats up for grabs. I didn't want to touch any of the seats currently listed as toss-up in the states that we know are probably not going to be getting redistricted, or at the very least, there's not been any rumblings about them getting redistricted. Now, for some states like Florida has not been official that they're going to be redistricting yet, but Republicans like Ron DeSantis have been very specific in wanting to redistrict, which is why I went ahead and did it. You could easily make the argument that these seats remain the same and don't redistrict. That would bring the Democrats up to about 207, Republicans down to about 211, so it would be a much closer House fight on that regard if you did that. But I think Florida, we ultimately will see it getting its map redrawn, as DeSantis and Republicans there have been very bullish on that. In Texas, again, I don't want to fill in any of the toss-ups now because we don't know the election environment for 2026 yet. I wanted this video to serve more as like an educational piece of where things are going. Kansas, Republicans would love to redraw the Kansas map. The 3rd district, though, it's going to be a tough flip due to the fact that the Democratic governor of Kansas, Laura Kelly, would veto any new congressional map that draws out a Democrat. So Republicans would need to have a veto-proof supermajority to redo the map and also survive any Supreme Court legal issues. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that. We can even just say for the sake of argument that they can, but even then I'm still very skeptical that would happen. If that did, that would get Republicans up to 217. Democrats are at 201. At this point, the map is looking pretty bleak for the Democrats if this all essentially were to go the Republicans' way. Now, a few of the seats I went over that are not being redrawn currently, that could be redrawn, like I mentioned. First, we'll go to Wisconsin, where again, which kind of started all of this. Wisconsin, if they redraw their map, we could see the 3rd district definitely flip. We could see the 1st district flip, and then maybe Democrats could try and draw out one of Scott Fitzgerald in Wisconsin 5, maybe Tony Weed in Wisconsin 8 or something like that. But at least Democrats should be able to get 3 and 1 in that potential redistricting. The next most likely state would probably be New York, where again, I think it would look something like Mike Lawler would be redrawn. Maybe New York 1 with Nicholas Lalauda gets redrawn, and then you're looking at maybe at least Stefanik's district going. You could see something like this out of New York maybe, but a lot of really heavy redistricting would have to go on for that to happen. But you could at least see Lawler's district and Lalauda's district potentially be in jeopardy of flipping there. New Jersey, if they were able to make it happen, I think Democrats could maybe guarantee a flip in New Jersey 7th with Tom Keene's district. That could be certainly possible. New Jersey 4 and 2 are currently pretty red based on the way they're currently drawn. So unless the Democrats really radically redraw the map, like maybe 4 could be taken away or maybe 2, but it's going to be a very tough fight on that one in New Jersey. So if you did that to kind of counterbalance it a little bit, that would get the Democrats up to 206, Republicans 214. If Pritzker's right in Illinois, maybe the Democrats can redraw the map to try and get another Democratic seat out of the Republican one. Maybe they can redraw out Darren LaHood in Illinois 16 or something like that. That would get the Democrats up to 207. So redistricting right now, I think the bottom line is it's very much up in the air in a lot of places. Again, based on the current consensus map, it's Republicans at 212, Democrats at 202. And you can add for sure into the consensus ranking Missouri 5. That will be ending up going for the Republicans now. But the rest of the map, 213 for the Republicans, 201 for the Democrats, still a lot of redistricting up in the air for 2026 and how that will go. So it's a very important map to keep an eye on for 2026 and how it all ultimately ends up going in places like Florida and California and maybe in places like Nebraska, Kansas, Wisconsin. We could have a completely different House map by the 2026 midterm elections than we currently do today. So very much still up in the air. I want to do this video to try and help out and educate as much as possible, but certainly if there's anything I missed, again, make sure to leave a comment below. Tell me where I did miss it and how I can address that going forward. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Make sure not to miss my upcoming videos. I post multiple every day that you're not going to want to miss. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you in a future video.